In the grand halls of Kensington Palace, where protocol and tradition reigned supreme, a small voice broke through centuries of royal formality with just two simple words. When 10-year-old Prince George was overheard calling his stepmother something completely unexpected during a private family moment, the internet collectively melted. This wasn't the usual "Your Royal Highness" or even a formal Catherine. It was something so genuine, so beautifully innocent that it reminded the entire world that beneath all the crowns and ceremonies, the Wales family is simply that, a family. What started as an overheard conversation between a young prince and the woman who has become his guiding light has sparked a global conversation about love, family, and the extraordinary ordinariness of royal life behind closed doors. The name Prince George uses for Catherine isn't just adorable, it's revolutionary in its simplicity. And it's changing how the world sees the future of the British monarchy. This is the story of how two words from a child's heart became a symbol of hope, healing, and the beautiful blended family that Prince William and Catherine have created together. The September morning at Kensington Palace started like any other royal day, with carefully planned schedules and polished routines. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was reviewing her upcoming engagements when she heard the familiar sound of running footsteps in the corridor. Prince George, now 10 years old and growing more confident by the day, burst into the room with the kind of excitement that only children can muster over the smallest discoveries.
"Mama Catherine, you have to see this," he exclaimed, completely unaware that a palace staff member was within earshot.
The aide, initially focused on her clipboard, froze at the sound of those two words. Not Catherine, not Your Royal Highness, but Mama Catherine. Spoken with such natural affection that it seemed to transform the formal palace atmosphere into something wonderfully ordinary. The staff member Sarah Mitchell had worked at Kensington Palace for over 8 years. She had witnessed countless formal interactions, state dinners, and protocol-driven conversations. But this moment was different. This was pure, unscripted family love playing out in real time. George was holding a small drawing he had made during his art lesson, his face beaming with the pride that comes from wanting to share something special with someone who matters. Catherine's response was equally touching. She immediately set aside her official papers and gave George her complete attention, examining his artwork with the same seriousness she might show to a priceless masterpiece. "This is absolutely wonderful, darling," she said, her voice warm with genuine appreciation. "Tell me about every detail." George's explanation was animated and detailed, pointing out each carefully drawn element, while Catherine listened with the kind of focused attention that makes children feel truly heard. What made this interaction particularly significant was its complete naturalness. There was no performance, no awareness of being observed. This was simply a loving stepmother and stepson sharing a moment of connection. The ease with which George said Mama Catherine suggested this wasn't a new development. It was clearly his established way of addressing the woman who had become such an integral part of his life. Sarah found herself deeply moved by what she had witnessed. As someone who had grown up in a blended family herself, she understood the significance of a child choosing to use such an affectionate term for a step-parent. It wasn't something that could be forced or manufactured. It had to grow naturally from genuine love and trust. The interaction continued for several more minutes, with Catherine and George discussing his upcoming school projects and weekend plans. Their conversation flowed with the easy rhythm of two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Catherine asked thoughtful questions about George's friends, his favorite subjects, and his thoughts on their upcoming family trip to Scotland. George, in turn, seemed completely comfortable sharing his thoughts and feelings with Catherine. He talked about a friend who had been having a difficult time at school, showing the kind of empathy that suggested Catherine's influence in teaching him to care about others. He also mentioned how excited he was about a charity event they would be attending together, demonstrating that he was learning to embrace his royal duties not as burdens, but as opportunities to help others. What struck Sarah most was the complete absence of any tension or awkwardness that might sometimes exist in blended family dynamics. George wasn't performing or trying to please, he was simply being himself with someone he clearly trusted completely. Catherine, likewise, wasn't overcompensating or trying too hard. She was responding to George with the natural instincts of someone who genuinely cared about his well-being and happiness. The conversation eventually turned to more practical matters, with Catherine helping George organize his school bag and ensuring he had everything he needed for the day. Even these mundane activities were infused with warmth and care. Catherine made sure George had his water bottle, checked that his homework was complete, and reminded him about his after-school activities with the kind of attentive care that spoke to her deep involvement in his daily life. As George prepared to head to his tutoring session, he gave Catherine a spontaneous hug. "Thank you for looking at my drawing, Mama Catherine," he said simply. "It makes me happy when you like my art." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, and Catherine's response was equally heartfelt. I always love seeing what you create, George. Your creativity amazes me every single day. After George left the room, Catherine stood quietly for a moment, a gentle smile on her face as she looked at his drawing. Sarah observed that there was something almost sacred about the moment, a stepmother treasuring a gift from her stepchild, with the same precious attention a biological mother might show. It was clear that for Catherine, these weren't the obligations of royal duty, but the joys of chosen family love. Sarah later reflected on what she had witnessed, understanding that she had been present for something truly special. In a world where blended families often struggle with complex dynamics and divided loyalties, here was a perfect example of how love can transcend biological connections. George's use of Mama Catherine wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about expanding his circle of love to include someone who had earned a place in his heart through consistent care and affection. The simplicity of the name Mama Catherine was part of its beauty. It wasn't formal or distant, but it also wasn't trying to erase the reality of their relationship. It acknowledged Catherine as a maternal figure while maintaining her unique identity. It was a name that honored both their bond and their individual selves. As word of this sweet interaction began to quietly circulate among palace staff, there was a sense of joy and hope. Everyone who worked closely with the family could see how naturally Catherine had stepped into her role not just as future queen, but as a loving presence in the lives of William's children. The fact that George had chosen this name for her spoke volumes about the success of their blended family dynamic. The impact of overhearing those two simple words would soon extend far beyond the palace walls, touching hearts around the world, and offering a glimpse into the beautiful reality of the Wales family's private life. The story of Prince George's sweet name for Catherine might have remained a private palace moment forever, but sometimes the most beautiful truths have a way of finding the light. Sarah Mitchell, the palace aide who had witnessed the touching exchange, found herself carrying the warmth of that moment throughout her entire day. It wasn't gossip that motivated her to eventually share the story. It was the recognition that in a world often filled with division and cynicism, people needed to hear about genuine love and family bonds. 3 days after the initial incident, Sarah was having coffee with her sister Emma, a journalist who specialized in positive human interest stories. Emma had always been fascinated by the real lives behind public figures, particularly stories that showed the humanity beneath the headlines. When Sarah carefully shared what she had witnessed, emphasizing the pure joy and natural affection she had observed, Emma immediately understood the significance. This isn't just a cute story, Emma said thoughtfully. This is proof that blended families can work beautifully when there's real love and commitment involved. People need to hear this, especially families going through similar situations. Emma's own experience as a stepmother had taught her how challenging and rewarding these relationships could be, and she recognized that the Wales family's example could offer hope to countless others navigating similar paths. Emma approached her editor with the story idea, carefully framing it not as royal gossip but as an inspiring example of modern family dynamics. Her editor, initially skeptical about running what might seem like a fluff piece, became intrigued when Emma explained the broader implications. Think about it, Emma argued. Here's the future King of England calling his stepmother Mama Catherine with complete naturalness. This shows how the monarchy is evolving, how they're becoming more relatable and human.
The article was crafted with careful attention to respect and authenticity. Emma interviewed child psychologists about the significance of children choosing their own names for step-parents, family therapists about successful blended family dynamics, and royal experts about how the monarchy was modernizing its approach to family relationships.
The story that emerged was rich with context and insight, using George's sweet name for Catherine as a jumping-off point for a deeper exploration of love, family, and the changing face of royalty. When the article was published online on a Thursday morning, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, the story had been shared thousands of times across social media platforms. Comments poured in from readers around the world, many sharing their own experiences with blended families and step-parent relationships. The hashtag Mama Catherine began trending on Twitter, with users posting photos of their own blended families and stories of chosen family love. The response wasn't just from royal watchers or casual observers. It came from people whose lives had been touched by similar family dynamics. Single parents shared how the story gave them hope that their future relationships could bring positive influences into their children's lives. Step-parents wrote about the challenges and joys of earning a special place in a child's heart. Even adult children of blended families reflected on the importance of having parental figures who chose to love them unconditionally. Lisa Martinez, a family therapist based in London, was among the first experts contacted by media outlets seeking commentary on the story. What's beautiful about George using Mama Catherine is that it shows he feels secure enough in his relationship with Catherine to define it on his own terms, she explained to a radio interviewer. Children are incredibly perceptive about authentic love versus performed care. The fact that he's chosen this name suggests that Catherine has consistently shown up for him in meaningful ways. The international response was equally heartwarming. In Australia, a morning television show dedicated an entire segment to discussing how the story reflected changing attitudes toward family structures. The hosts interviewed viewers who called in to share their own blended family success stories, creating a beautiful tapestry of love that transcended traditional definitions of family. In Canada, a blogger wrote a viral post about how the story had given her courage to embrace her role as a stepmother more fully. "If it's good enough for a future queen, it's good enough for me," she wrote. "I've been holding back from fully embracing my place in my stepchildren's lives because I was worried about overstepping. But seeing this story reminds me that love doesn't have boundaries when it's genuine." Back at Kensington Palace, the response to the story's publication was mixed. Some staff members worried about privacy and protocol being breached, while others recognized the positive impact the story was having on public perception of the royal family. The communications team held several meetings to discuss how to handle the sudden spotlight on such a personal family moment. Prince William and Catherine themselves were initially surprised by the attention, but they quickly recognized the story's positive message. Palace insiders reported that they were touched by the overwhelming support and love expressed by people around the world. They saw an opportunity to show a more personal side of royal life while highlighting important messages about family, love, and acceptance. The couple's friends and close associates weren't surprised by the revelation. Those who knew them well had long observed the natural, loving relationship between Catherine and George. They had seen Catherine at school events, cheering enthusiastically at sports days, helping with homework, and providing the kind of steady, nurturing presence that helps children thrive. Lady Melissa Percy, a close friend of Catherine's, commented to a trusted journalist, "Anyone who knows Catherine knows that she doesn't do anything halfway. When she commits to loving someone, she does it completely." George calling her Mama Catherine is just the external expression of what we've all witnessed. She genuinely adores those children and has made their happiness a priority in her life. The story's reach extended into academic circles as well. Professor Sarah Thompson, who studies modern monarchy at Cambridge University, noted the historical significance of the moment. "This represents a fundamental shift in how we understand royal family dynamics," she explained in a published paper. Previous generations of royalty maintained much more formal relationships even within families. George's easy affection for Catherine signals a new era of royal authenticity. Social media platforms became filled with heartwarming responses. Parents posted photos of their own children with step-parents, often accompanied by touching stories of love that had grown over time. The #Mama Catherine hashtag evolved into a broader celebration of chosen family love, with people sharing examples of relatives, mentors, and family friends who had played parental roles in their lives. The story resonated particularly strongly with military families where blended family structures are common due to remarriage after loss or divorce. Support groups for military spouses found the story especially meaningful, seeing parallels between their own experiences of building new family bonds while honoring existing relationships. International royal families also took notice. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden was reported to have mentioned the story during a private dinner, noting how it reflected a more modern and relatable approach to royal family life. The story became a talking point in royal circles about the balance between maintaining tradition and embracing contemporary family values. As the story continued to spread and evolve, it became clear that what had started as one overheard moment in a palace corridor had touched something universal about human love and family bonds. The simple phrase Mama Catherine had become a symbol of hope, showing that love truly can conquer formal boundaries and create beautiful, lasting family connections. Within 24 hours of the story's initial publication, the internet had transformed Prince George's simple Mama Catherine into a global phenomenon that transcended social media platforms, language barriers, and cultural differences. What started as a heartwarming family moment had evolved into something much larger, a digital celebration of love, acceptance, and the beautiful complexity of modern family life. The first major surge came from Instagram, where royal fan accounts began creating artistic tributes to the story. These weren't simple reposts of news articles, but carefully crafted visual content that captured the emotional essence of George's sweet name for Catherine. One particularly popular post featured a watercolor illustration of a small boy and a woman walking hand in hand through palace gardens, with the caption, "Love doesn't need royal titles, it just needs genuine hearts." The post garnered over 2 million likes and 300,000 comments within its first day. TikTok users took a different approach, with creators making videos about their own experiences with step-parents and blended families. The platform saw a wave of content using the audio clip of someone saying "Mama Catherine" over footage of users with their own chosen family members. These videos ranged from deeply emotional testimonials to lighthearted celebrations of non-traditional family love. One video that particularly resonated showed a young woman surprising her stepmother with a handmade card calling her bonus mom, crediting the royal story with inspiring her to express feelings she had carried for years. The phenomenon reached YouTube through longer-form content, where family vloggers and relationship experts created detailed discussions about the significance of the story. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, a child psychologist with a popular YouTube channel, produced a 20-minute video breaking down the psychology behind children choosing names for step-parents. Her analysis of why George's choice was so meaningful garnered over 5 million views and sparked thousands of comments from viewers sharing their own family stories. Twitter became the hub for real-time reactions and discussions, with the #MamaCatherine hashtag expanding beyond its original context. Users began using it to celebrate all forms of chosen family love: mentors who became parental figures, family friends who stepped up during difficult times, and relatives who went above and beyond their traditional roles. The hashtag evolved into a beautiful tapestry of human connection stories from around the world. Celebrity responses added another layer to the viral moment. Actress Reese Witherspoon, herself a stepmother, posted a touching tribute on her Instagram stories, writing, "There's something so pure about children naming the love they feel." George's Mama Catherine reminds us that family is created by care, not just biology. Her post was reshared by dozens of other celebrities, amplifying the message to millions of additional followers. The story found particular resonance in online communities dedicated to blended families and step-parenting. Forums that usually focused on challenges and difficulties were suddenly filled with success stories and positive examples. Users shared photos of their own blended families, often accompanied by stories of breakthrough moments when stepchildren had chosen special names for their step-parents. The royal example had given people permission to celebrate relationships they had previously felt uncertain about showcasing publicly. International responses brought fascinating cultural perspectives to the discussion. In Japan, where formal family structures traditionally carry great importance, social media users were particularly moved by the story's message about love transcending formality. Japanese Twitter users created their own hashtag translating to Heart Mother Catherine, and shared stories of how modern Japanese families were also evolving to embrace more flexible definitions of family roles. In Latin American countries where large extended families are common, the story resonated differently but equally powerfully. Users on platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook shared the story alongside discussions about how love creates family bonds that extend far beyond biological connections. The term Mama Catherine was adapted into Spanish as Mama Catherine and used to celebrate women in their communities who had stepped into maternal roles for children who weren't biologically their own. The viral nature of the story caught the attention of major news networks worldwide, but their coverage took an interesting turn. Rather than focusing solely on the royal angle, many outlets began producing segments about blended family success stories in their local communities. Local news stations started featuring families who had overcome challenges to create loving, supportive environments for children from previous relationships. Academic researchers began studying the viral phenomenon itself, fascinated by how a simple family moment had sparked such widespread emotional engagement. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who studies viral content at Stanford University, noted that the story's spread pattern was unusual because it generated positive engagement rather than the controversy that often drives viral content. People weren't sharing this to argue or debate, she observed. They were sharing it to celebrate and connect with others who understood the beauty of chosen family love. The phenomenon extended to platforms beyond traditional social media. Pinterest saw a surge in boards dedicated to blended family activities, step-parent gift ideas, and family bonding projects. Users were saving ideas for creating special moments with their stepchildren, inspired by the natural love they had witnessed between George and Catherine. The platform reported a 400% increase in searches related to step-family activities in the week following the story's publication. Reddit discussions became particularly deep and meaningful. with users in various family-related subreddits sharing detailed stories of their own blended family journeys. The r/stepparents community, which often dealt with challenges and frustrations, experienced an unusual week of celebration and success stories. Users shared breakthrough moments, expressions of love from stepchildren, and advice for building the kind of natural relationship that George and Catherine clearly enjoyed. The story's impact on online dating platforms was unexpected but significant. Dating apps reported increased numbers of single parents being open about their children in their profiles, and more potential partners expressing interest in relationships that included children. The royal example had somehow made blended family possibilities seem more attractive and achievable to people who might have previously been hesitant about such relationships. E-commerce platforms saw interesting trends related to the story's popularity. Sales of step-parent-themed gifts, family photo frames designed for blended families, and books about step-parenting all experienced significant increases. Greeting card companies reported higher demand for cards that celebrated step-parent relationships, with many featuring variations of chosen family themes inspired by the royal story. The digital response wasn't limited to English-speaking countries. Translation apps showed increased activity as people around the world sought to understand and share the story in their own languages. The phrase Mama Catherine appeared in dozens of languages on social media platforms, each adaptation carrying the same warmth and affection as the original English version. Online support groups for single parents found new purpose in the story's message. Many groups organized virtual events where members could share their own positive blended family moments, creating a supportive environment for people navigating similar relationship dynamics. The royal example had provided a perfect positive model for what successful step-parent relationships could look like. As the digital celebration continued to spread and evolve, it became clear that Prince George's simple words had tapped into a universal human need, the desire to love and be loved beyond traditional boundaries.
The internet had taken his innocent expression of affection and transformed it into a global celebration of the many ways that families are formed through choice, care, and commitment rather than just biology. Behind the viral moment and global celebration lay years of careful, intentional relationship building that few people had witnessed.
The sweet name Mama Catherine that captured hearts worldwide didn't emerge overnight. It was the culmination of countless small moments, patient understanding, and genuine love that had grown steadily since Catherine first became part of Prince William's life. Those closest to the Wales family understood that the foundation for George's affectionate name had been laid long before his birth, in the way Catherine had always approached her relationship with William. Royal insiders recalled how, even during their courtship, Catherine had never tried to compete with memories of Diana or position herself as a replacement. Instead, she had carved out her own unique space, understanding that love doesn't diminish when shared but rather multiplies when given freely. Lady Elizabeth Anson, a close family friend who had known both William and Catherine throughout their relationship, later reflected on Catherine's approach to becoming part of the family. Catherine never tried to erase the past or pretend it didn't exist. She shared during a private dinner conversation. She understood that Diana would always be William's first love and the mother of his heart, and she never saw that as a threat to her own place in his life. That wisdom and security created space for a different kind of love to grow. When George was born in July 2013, Catherine's role began to naturally evolve beyond just being William's wife. Palace staff who were present during those early months noticed how Catherine seemed to instinctively understand the delicate balance required in her new position. She wasn't George's biological mother, but she was absolutely committed to being a loving, nurturing presence in his life from the very beginning. Nanny Maria Barolo, who joined the family when George was 8 months old, witnessed the development of their relationship from its earliest stages. In private conversations with trusted friends, she described how Catherine never imposed herself on George but rather let their bond develop naturally through consistent care and attention. She was always there for the important moments, Maria recalled. Not because protocol demanded it, but because she genuinely wanted to be part of his world. The early years were filled with small, precious moments that built the foundation for their relationship. Catherine was the one who sat with George during his first fever, reading stories in different voices until he fell asleep. She was present for his first steps, cheering enthusiastically and immediately calling William to share the excitement. She learned his favorite songs, his preferred bedtime routine, and the specific way he liked his sandwich cut. All the tiny details that showed her commitment to truly knowing and caring for him. As George grew from toddler to young child, their relationship deepened through shared activities and interests. Catherine discovered George's love for art and began setting aside time each week for creative projects together. These weren't formal lessons or structured activities, but rather spontaneous moments of connection where they could explore creativity side by side. Palace staff often found them at the kitchen table, both covered in paint and completely absorbed in their latest masterpiece. The development of George's language skills brought interesting moments in their relationship. Initially, he called her Catherine, as he had heard others do, but as he grew more comfortable and their bond strengthened, he began experimenting with different variations. Sometimes it was Kathy, sometimes Cat, and occasionally just Mama, when he was sleepy or seeking comfort. Each variation reflected his growing sense of security with her and his natural desire to define their relationship on his own terms. The breakthrough to Mama Catherine came gradually, emerging from George's own understanding of his family structure. Child development experts who later analyzed the situation noted that children often create naming solutions that acknowledge the complexity of their family relationships. George's choice honored both Catherine's maternal role in his life and her distinct identity as herself, not as a replacement for someone else. Private family moments revealed the depth of their connection in ways the public never saw. When George had nightmares, he would often seek comfort from both William and Catherine, showing equal trust in both parental figures. Catherine developed her own special techniques for helping him calm down, including a series of silly faces that never failed to make him giggle, and a made-up song about brave little princes that helped him feel secure. School events became opportunities for their relationship to shine in semi-public settings. Teachers at George's school noted how naturally Catherine interacted with him during parent events, how easily they communicated through glances and small gestures, and how genuinely proud she was of his achievements. She attended school plays with the same enthusiasm as any biological parent, recording every moment and celebrating his performances with authentic joy. The extended royal family also played a role in supporting and normalizing the relationship between Catherine and George. Queen Elizabeth II in particular was observed to be pleased by the natural affection between them. Royal sources noted that the Queen often commented on how beautifully Catherine had embraced her role as a stepmother, seeing it as a sign of her suitability for her future role as Queen Consort. Prince Charles, now King Charles III, was equally supportive of the developing relationship. He had his own experience with blended family dynamics and understood the importance of patience and authenticity in building these bonds. He was often heard praising Catherine's natural maternal instincts and her ability to love George without trying to compete with or replace his memories of Diana. The Cambridge and Windsor family members also embraced Catherine's role in George's life. Family gatherings showed the easy affection between them, with George naturally including Catherine in all family activities and conversations. During holidays at Sandringham, staff noticed how George would often seek Catherine's approval for his outfit choices, ask her opinion on gifts for others, and include her in his plans for outdoor activities. As George approached his 10th birthday, their relationship had evolved into something beautifully mature and secure. They had inside jokes, shared interests, and the kind of comfortable communication that comes from years of consistent love and attention. Catherine had learned to read George's moods, understand his needs often before he expressed them, and provide the kind of steady support that helps children develop confidence and security. The moment when George first used Mama Catherine publicly wasn't actually the first time he had used the name. Palace insiders revealed that he had been using it privately for several months, testing it out in safe spaces and gauging reactions. Catherine's consistent positive response and William's obvious approval had given George the confidence to use it more openly. What made their relationship particularly special was its authenticity. There was no performance or pretense, just genuine love and care flowing naturally between a woman who had chosen to love a child and a child who had chosen to accept that love. This authenticity was what people around the world recognized and celebrated when the story became public. The years of patient relationship building, consistent presence, and genuine care had created something beautiful, a family bond that honored the past while embracing the present. One that showed the world that love truly can create family connections that are every bit as strong and meaningful as biological ones. George's sweet name for Catherine was simply the verbal expression of a love that had been growing steadily for years. 6 months after Prince George's adorable name for Catherine first captured global hearts, the impact of those two simple words continued to resonate in ways both profound and unexpected. What had begun as an overheard palace moment had evolved into a lasting symbol of hope for families worldwide, demonstrating the extraordinary power of authentic love to transcend traditional boundaries and create lasting change. The most immediate and visible impact was on the royal family itself. Palace staff noted a subtle but significant shift in how family interactions were perceived and discussed. The public's enthusiastic response to George's natural affection for Catherine had given the entire Wales family a new sense of freedom to show their genuine emotions more openly. Previous royal generations had maintained careful distance even in public family moments, but the overwhelming positive response to authentic family love had created space for a more relatable royal approach. Catherine herself seemed to gain new confidence in her role within the family structure. Those close to her observed that the public validation of her relationship with George had freed her from some of the uncertainty that had previously shadowed her position as a stepmother in the most scrutinized family in the world. She began speaking more openly about family life in her public appearances, sharing small anecdotes about the children that revealed the genuine closeness of their relationships. The impact on Prince George was equally positive and perhaps even more significant. Child psychologists who studied the situation noted that having his natural expression of love celebrated rather than questioned or criticized would likely strengthen his confidence in forming authentic relationships throughout his life. The experience had shown him that love expressed genuinely is beautiful and worth celebrating, a lesson that would serve him well as he grew into his future role as king. The broader royal family embraced the new openness as well. Prince William became more willing to share insights into their family dynamics during interviews, often speaking warmly about Catherine's role as a mother figure to George. His comfort in discussing their blended family openly helped normalize the conversation about modern family structures for millions of people around the world. King Charles III recognized the broader implications of the public response and began incorporating themes of family diversity and chosen love into some of his official speeches. He understood that the monarchy's relevance to modern society depended partly on its ability to reflect and celebrate the reality of contemporary family life, including the beautiful complexity of blended families. The story's impact extended far beyond royal circles into real families facing similar dynamics. Family therapists around the world reported increased numbers of blended families seeking counseling not because of problems, but because they wanted to proactively build strong, healthy relationships like the one they had witnessed between George and Catherine. The royal example had given people permission to invest in step-parent relationships with confidence and optimism. Dr. Michael Harrison, a leading expert in blended family dynamics, documented what he called the Catherine effect in his research. His study of 500 step-families showed that those who had heard and been inspired by George's story were more likely to encourage open expression of affection between step-parents and stepchildren. The families reported higher levels of satisfaction and stronger relationships across all family members. Schools began incorporating discussions about diverse family structures into their programs, using the royal example as a positive model for how different types of families can work beautifully. Teachers reported that children from blended families seemed more confident about their family situations after learning that even future kings could have step-parents who loved them dearly. The publishing industry saw increased demand for children's books about blended families, with many authors citing the royal story as inspiration for their work. One particularly successful book titled My Mama Catherine became a bestseller by helping children understand and celebrate the different ways families can be formed through love and choice, rather than just biology. International adoption agencies reported that the story had positively impacted public perception of children forming bonds with non-biological parental figures. Social workers noted that the royal example helped reduce stigma around adoption and foster family situations, showing potential parents and children that love could flourish in many different family configurations. The story's influence reached into academic circles as well. Universities began offering new courses on modern family dynamics, using the royal example as a case study in successful blended family integration. Researchers published papers examining how public figures' private family relationships could influence social attitudes and behaviors on a broad scale. Corporate America took notice of the changing attitudes toward family diversity as well. Companies began expanding their family-friendly policies to better accommodate blended family needs, including step-parent leave policies and recognition of step-parent relationships in benefit structures. The cultural shift toward celebrating diverse family structures had practical implications for millions of working families. The story continued to generate positive content on social media platforms long after the initial viral moment. The #MamaCatherine hashtag evolved into an ongoing celebration of chosen family love, with people regularly sharing updates on their own step-parent relationships and blended family successes. The sustained positive engagement was unusual in the typically short attention span world of social media. Support groups for step-parents found new purpose and energy in the wake of the story's popularity. Many groups organized events specifically focused on celebrating the positive aspects of step-parenting, moving away from their traditional focus on challenges and difficulties. The royal example had given step-parents around the world a positive model to aspire to and celebrate. Mental health professionals noted improvements in how step-family members viewed their relationships. The validation provided by the global celebration of George and Catherine's bond helped reduce feelings of uncertainty and inadequacy that often plagued step-parent relationships. People began approaching these relationships with more confidence and optimism. The story's impact on charitable organizations was particularly meaningful. Several foundations focused on supporting children in foster care and blended families reported increased donations and volunteer interest following the story's publication. The royal example had humanized the experiences of children who needed loving adult figures in their lives, inspiring more people to get involved in supporting vulnerable children. As the first anniversary of the story's publication approached, media outlets began preparing retrospective pieces examining its lasting impact. The consensus among journalists, experts, and ordinary families was that George's simple expression of love had created a lasting cultural shift toward greater acceptance and celebration of diverse family structures. The Wales family themselves seemed to understand the significance of what had grown from that one overheard moment. In their Christmas card that year, they chose a photo that showed the natural affection between all family members, including a sweet moment of George and Catherine laughing together.
The image seemed to say what words could not: that love, when authentic and freely given, creates the most beautiful families of all. Looking forward, experts predicted that the Mama Catherine phenomenon would continue to influence attitudes toward blended families for years to come.
The story had proven that sometimes the most powerful social change comes not from grand gestures or formal declarations, but from simple moments of authentic love that resonate deeply with human hearts worldwide. The lasting legacy of Prince George's adorable name for Catherine was not just a momentary feel-good story, but a genuine cultural shift toward recognizing and celebrating the many beautiful ways that families can be formed through choice, commitment, and love. In a world often divided by differences, two simple words had reminded everyone of the universal human capacity to create family bonds that transcend biology and tradition, proving that love truly is the most powerful force for bringing people together.